Hi, did I turn on my microphone today? Welcome, low ego action heroes. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. You can check us out at customercentricity.com. And welcome to Office Hours, the late version here on the third Tuesday, where I do two in one day. Today is 21 February 2023, and I am taking your questions here for the next hour. That's what I do on Tuesdays, and it's just a way to give the whole world some free mentoring if you have questions. Of course, you might be jealous of my fantastic shirt. It is for my new book, Customers Know You Suck. Hey, would you like the merch? It's deltacx.shop. There's other fun stuff there too. So before we get started, just the usual thanks to all of the people who are giving to the channel in small and large ways, usually through YouTube. The join button, and thank you very, very much for that. Keeps me in streaming software and chocolate chips. And so yeah, thanks to everybody. And yesterday I took those chocolate chips and I made peanut butter cups, homemade. So good. So thank you for keeping me in chocolate chips. So if you would like to ask a question, like I said, I'm here for an hour, and you can ask it in the live chat. Or if you would like to ask anonymously, or because you have a long question, you can follow the Office Hours link on deltacx.com/links. And that will tell you all the things you need to know. Let's also open up my panel of effects. There we go. Effects are on. Cool. All right. So hopefully the stream is going to work a little bit better today. I am not seeing questions yet, and now I'm worried that I'm having another technical problem. So let me just check if I'm missing any of your chat comments, because we had some technical problems this morning, and I don't want to miss anything anybody is saying, especially if you have a question. So let's see. Ana Lucia says hello. And did I get that? Yes, it's just coming through now. Okay, so I'm a little delayed maybe. Cool, right? There. I don't know where it is. All right, so I'm going to put up our first question, which came in a little bit earlier, which was neat because it gave me the opportunity to run it by Larry Marine. So the question that came in said, how do user scenarios differ from task analysis? I keep seeing the same process with two of these where they showcase the steps a user takes to complete a task. In addition, the artifacts they would use, like a mobile app. So I copied and pasted that to Larry Marine, and Larry said, task analysis is much more detailed. User scenarios tend to describe the happy path and leave out artifacts, decision points, questions, and issues. So let's talk a little bit more about it. And thanks to Larry. I don't know if he's watching, but thanks to Larry for helping us out on that one. So task analysis, we've done a few videos on the YouTube channel. So of course, please do subscribe here on YouTube. And you can always come to YouTube and search for Delta CX Task Analysis. And you should get a bunch of videos coming up. And you can learn at least the short version of how to do task analysis, looking at how a user completes the task, but including lots of details like their tools, knowledge, workarounds, the steps that they take, where things get complicated for them, and where they've, like I said, where they've used workarounds. These are all really important areas where you can be solving problems. And that's why I like it better than jobs to be done, because I find that if we know the user's job, that's cool, but we're really about this. I live out in the country in the middle of nowhere, and the internet is hit and miss. I'm going to work on trying to upgrade it again, but even when we upgrade it, yikes, it's still not great. So, yes. So again, we want to make sure that if we're doing task analysis, we're not just settling for personas that don't tell us enough about anything, that we're not settling for not understanding the problem or the right problem, not having defined it well. We don't want to settle for too little here. We want to make sure that when we are analyzing a task, that we have all the detail that we need to make sure that we understand the problem, and eventually we'll have some better attempts at solutions. All of my stuff is just out of order today. So let me see. Let's grab Shiva's question. Kayleen says, jobs to be done is taking off. I see it a lot. Yeah, it's not that it's taking a lot off. It's always been around for quite a while now, but it is getting more popular in some cases. It is better than nothing, but I would still say task analysis is even better than that. So let me copy paste Shiva's question into my notes, and that way we can put it up on the screen and talk about it. Ana Lucia says, oh, there may be some incompatibilities with jobs to be done in task analysis. I haven't read the book. I've seen a lot of UXRs recommending it. Yeah, again, let me take the next question off the screen. So yes, I find that there are a lot of UX teams trying to recommend jobs to be done because it's certainly a first step in trying to be more user-centered or customer-centric, because it is a paradigm in which we are saying, hey, look, we know the business has these goals. We know the business wants to bump up these numbers. We know the business wants to accomplish this. That's cool. But what's the user trying to do? What is their job? What is their goal? What are they trying to get done? And so depending upon the flavor of jobs to be done that you use, because there's a few different versions of it, very often you're looking at something sometimes on too surface a level. If we say the user's job is to search Amazon and buy some peanut butter, okay, good. So we know we need to have a good search. We know we need to have a good product page and a good checkout. But have we really learned the details that we need to know to understand the problem and solve it? So I do find that it's better than nothing. It's better than being business-centric and stakeholder-centric. It's good to be focused more on users and customers, no matter what we call that framework or paradigm. But I have seen some jobs to be done, websites and training and documents and diagrams and trainers who have made it sound like you don't really have to research. You can just go ahead and guess the jobs to be done. You're probably right, kind of we know our users kind of stuff. And so I think we just have to be careful and have that critical thinking hat on, choose our trainers and our sources very carefully, because some of the jobs to be done stuff I have found to be only slightly better than some of the messes we're in now. So yeah, whenever people say, hey, I really love jobs to be done, I say, then you're really going to love task analysis, because it really is so much more useful and actionable. And I'm still hoping my book with Larry will be out in April, and we're going to want a volunteer editing team for that. So let me know if anybody's up for reading it and tearing it to pieces and telling us when we didn't do a good enough job. All right, so back to Shiva's question. Thank you for your patience. The question says, hey, Debbie, when conducting research for designing a new service or digital product, is market research done along with design research by the team? Are methodologies used in market and social research used using design research? Ana Lucia says, task analysis is amazing. It's made me choose research. Yay! Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Always cool to hear. Okay, so we've definitely talked before on the show about CX and UX research versus market research. And I think I definitely need to do a show on this, because I have content on it. I have slides on it. It's in my new book, the book that matches the shirt. There's definitely some stuff about that in there. So let me make a note that we need to do a market research versus CX UX research show, because we're getting more and more questions about that, and I'd love to. No, I think it's, I'm trying to refresh YouTube and make sure I'm still live and it hasn't died. Okay. Looks like it hasn't died. Thanks for your patience, everybody. I'm having more internet blips. So market research, not always, but very often, is, let's see, yeah, it is blipping a bit. I can tell. I'm sorry about that. I am on my 4G hotspot. That's our backup internet. I'm getting a message from Pier Mario. I disconnected from it. Thanks, honey. I hope that helps. I think we need a new hotspot. We need a nice internet connection in here. So market research very often, but not always, is a lot of what can we sell to people? Hey, we're thinking about releasing this idea or feature or service. Would people want this? What will they pay for it? And you have to remember that when you're in that early generative part of your research process, I'll put this up, even though I probably need to zoom it out a little bit. You have to remember that we shouldn't even have those questions yet. We should still be solution agnostic. If we are way up here in early research land and we're not totally sure what problem we're solving or how it's going to be solved, or target audiences and their needs and tasks, and say it with me, people, contexts, and systems, it's too early to say, do you want this? And what would you pay for it? And would your brother want it? And stuff like that. So a lot of market research is aimed at those types of things. But I believe that if you were to use better generative evaluative research that really understand people's behaviors and attitudes and other things, then you would understand their problems, you would have some ideas on how to solve them, and you wouldn't have to say, I have this idea, what would you pay for it? We know what the problems are, and we know that solving them should make customers happier. Oh, I made a new graphic today and I forgot to load it in. I'm going to try to load it in without crashing my system. Because then we can add that to the bucket. Let's see if I can add that. That's adopt, satisfy, retain. Let's see if I can put that up. Okay, so this is going to be ugly, and I'll try to fix it while we're talking. So this is my new graphic. Remember, this is what everybody wants. Everybody wants this. There we go. How's that? Everybody wants to adopt, attract customers, make them happy, keep them. And if we don't know if we're building the right thing, market research can make it sound like people will pay for it. But if we didn't build the right thing and we're not making customers happy, new graphic is silly. What have we really done? So just be careful of some of that stuff. And again, if your team is not an expert in market research, they probably shouldn't do it. If market researchers are not great at CX and UX research, they probably shouldn't do it. So should it be the same team? It depends. Who's good at this? That's who I want to see doing the research, the people who are great at this. So when I'm starting a project, I'm typically not doing market research because, again, most, not all, of market research typically is, we've got an idea, who wants it, who can we sell it to, what'll they pay for it? I'm not even there yet. I'm just trying to figure out the problems and possible solutions, and I'm not worried about what are they going to pay for it. So I hope that helps. And good to see Johnny here again. So let's see. I want to make sure I'm not missing any messages. Oh, and we've got tree testing again. This is great. We had a question this morning about tree testing. So Lonnie will get to yours after Johnny's. So, and always good to see you, Ms. Lonnie. Let's copy and paste Lonnie's question too. Okay. And let's start with Johnny asking about dog fooding. Who knows what dog fooding is? Who can tell Johnny what dog fooding is? Or he wrote dog feeding, but usually it's dog fooding. Always feed your dogs. Feed them every day, at least once. But typically dog fooding, or what sometimes is eat your own dog food, is where the company uses their own product because the company has a need to use the product, or it'll definitely blip while I change Wi-Fi networks, but we can try. But it's back now. So yeah. I do get a little notice on my screen that it is blipping, so I apologize. I am aware of this. So dog fooding is good. There's nothing wrong with using your own product if your company is genuinely a user of the product. I'm sure the people at Monday.com are building Monday.com boards. Yes, use the product. But remember, this is never a replacement for good user research, for good usability testing, and for other types of research and testing. Because just because your company happens to use a certain thing in a certain way doesn't mean all of your users or customers are going to do the same thing. So you don't want to make the mistake of thinking, well, it's going pretty well for us, probably fine for everybody else. You still want to bring in those other people because there might be other types of users, especially when you think about a system like Slack. There's so many different ways that different types of companies might use it. Monday.com, so many different ways that different types of companies might use it. And we can't just say, well, it's going pretty well at our company. And also remember another downside to treating your own dog fooding like that's all the research or testing you need is you're the most savvy people on the planet about this product. You know every in and out and drawback and obstacle and that crappy thing that nobody fixed yet, and you have a workaround for it. You are the most savvy people on the planet. So you're going to be able to fix things and wrangle things in ways that your average user and customer is not going to know how to solve or improve. They're going to hit a brick wall, and you're going to have some weird workaround that nobody knows. So, Johnny, in general, I would say dog fooding can be good for a company to use their own product in a realistic way day to day, but it does not replace UX or CX research or testing, because we're acting like we are the only user type, and we're probably not. So there you go. All right, continuing with our hopefully not too blippy adventures, we can put Lonnie's question up. Let me also check. I haven't seen any come in anonymously. If you want to ask an anonymous question, you can always do so, even between shows, at deltacx.com/links. Okay, so Lonnie says, hey Debbie, for tree testing, when trying to evaluate the effectiveness of the existing hierarchy, what are the best non-leading questions to ask either post-task or post-study? Okay, so I did a video on unmoderated tree testing setup and analysis. Those are two separate videos. I haven't really done moderated, but I have done moderated tree tests. And so say you're using a third-party tool for your tree test, not sponsored. It might be Optimal Workshop. It might be UX Tweak. Those are the ones I tend to prefer. You can obviously use whatever you want, but I do like to use a tool. I would normally give people those tasks. So just give them the tasks. You know, you're trying to find thing. And then usually you want to figure out why they selected that. So, and again, if you are talking to them during or after a task, then obviously whatever timer is running for that task is out the window. So you're not looking at task completion timing or time on task, because if you're talking to them, that's all thrown off. So what's the best non-leading questions for post-task or post-study? Typically you want to know why they did that, but you have to find a gentle way to ask that, because why'd you do that? No matter what tone of voice you do, can accidentally sound condescending or judgmental. So typically you might say, how did you decide to start in the products part of our website? You know, something that, what made you choose that direction? What made you choose that part of our site? How did you know that was the right direction to go in? So I think these are some non-leading questions you can ask, because you're not passing any judgment about what they did. You're just trying to find out why without the why question. I've also done moderated card sorts, where after people did all the sorting, I asked them more about their choices by walking through it. In a tree test, I don't think I would tell people what the right answer was. Unmoderated tree tests. So I do have a video on unmoderated tree tests, and I don't usually ask a lot of questions post-task. I'm trying to think if I have asked questions post-task or post-study, and I don't think so, because usually to me the numbers tell me a lot, so I'm always looking for direct successes. Indirect success, direct failure, and indirect failure to me are all failures. So number one, don't treat indirect success as a failure, as a success, because to the user it's not. They went somewhere, they came back, they didn't like that, they went somewhere else. It's not a great experience, so I think of it as a failure. So number one, we have the numbers of what percentage of people had direct successes. Then I take a look at, is that a super high percentage number? Is it almost everybody? And I try to get at least 30 people going through the unmoderated tree test. Then I take a look at, for the people who weren't direct successes, where did they go? And so yes, some of that is a little bit trying to figure out, without asking them directly, why did they do that? Why did someone go there? Why would they think it's there? But usually with a little hashtag empathy, you can try to say, okay, I can see how that person thought that might be over there. Now remember, one thing about information architecture and hierarchies is they don't have to be one-to-one relationships. You don't have to say, the only place for this thing is one menu, let's pick the one place in the menu. I've definitely built mega menus and hierarchies in my life where I put something in two places, because I found when I tested it, people were just looking for it here and here. That was their mental model. Half the people expected it here and half the people expected it here. I couldn't think of a good reason to disappoint or confuse half the people. So just remember that if you really see some strong numbers from people that they're going in a certain place, sure, you can move the thing there. But for the people who got it right, what about them? So I would probably say that while it's nice to know why, you ultimately have to figure out if the hierarchy is making sense and where should things be. And I'm not against putting something in two places if we really find that it makes sense in both of those places and people are kind of looking fairly equally in both places for whatever this is. Does that make sense? I know I can't see your tree test or anything, and I'm semi-guessing, but I hope I'm close. Ask a follow-up question if you want. Meanwhile, let me remind everybody, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. This is my free worldwide mentoring. So if you have a question for me on pretty much any topic, I'd be happy to take it. You might get a better answer on questions closer to my expertise and experience, but we can always have a good laugh if you ask me about something I don't know very much about. Brandon has a question. And for some reason, it didn't show up on the screen, but I am checking YouTube. Hello, Manuel. So let's grab Brandon's question and jump to that, and we'll see if Lonnie has a follow-up question. Would it be leading to ask if any of the categories were confusing? A little bit, because you're assuming they were confused. Just answering this question down here. Because you're assuming they were confused. We don't know if they were confused. Maybe they quite confidently went in the wrong direction. So I think that's that usually people are quite confidently going in the right direction. And so I think it's tough to ask. You could ask the you could always ask the closed question of, did any categories seem confusing? And they could say nope. But remember, someone could say nope and then have messed everything up and failed every single test. So what did we prove there? So I would probably still go by what people did and the results of the test rather than what people said was confusing or not. You can ask that question at the end of a moderated or unmoderated test. I'm not against it, but I am worried that if people say, nope, not confusing, everything was great, and then they messed everything up, we don't want to go by the happy path of that question versus the realistic carnage of what they ended up actually doing. I hope that made some sense. Let me see. Are the questions coming up? Okay, we have a question from Brandon that I said we would get to next. So we've got that. And then we have Pamela just put up a question. So that'll be after that. Okay. I think this was Brandon. When developing personas for an org, can or should the marketing and UX personas be combined into one effectively? I think it really depends because, and I know it depends is a common answer, but let's be honest, it does depend. Marketing sometimes is over-focused on demographics. They want to put people in what I like to call lazy buckets. So, hey, Ralitza, so chances are my answer is it depends, but probably no, and here's why. So marketing might say, hey, we have a, there we go. We have a bucket for Debbie. You know, Debbie's 51 and she's this and she makes this much money and she lives here and she's got a husband and 4 dogs. And so we're putting her in this marketing bucket based on this marketing persona. The marketing persona is usually, not always, usually about these demographics or lifestyle features, about something about my personal life choices or where they live or things like that. We'll get Johnny's question on the list too. Please hold. So the problem is that very often, we cannot design from that. How am I supposed to work from that? I cannot work from somebody is 70% nice. I cannot work from they like Starbucks. I cannot work from they drive a minivan. Do you feel like wearing makeup has any factor? Do you mean the makeup I'm wearing right now, or are you still talking about marketing personas, Maddie? I'm not sure if you're talking about my personal wearing of makeup or if you're talking about what we're talking about. So help me know that. Let me make sure I'm getting all the questions queued up coming in. Product owner, product manager. Okay, got it. Okay, so where were we? Right. So these are the marketing personas, and what ends up happening is I usually find myself in what I call a lazy bucket. Hey, Deb's 50, she must have children or grandchildren, or she must have this, or she must own a house in this place or whatever. And I find that there's a lot of assumptions being made about my life that have nothing to do with who I actually am and what I'm trying to do or accomplish with my relationship with this company. Ralitza says marketing is a different way of putting the population into buckets. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's usually referred to as market segmentation, and it's different from what we do in UX research. Yeah, I think we're saying the kind of the same thing, me and Ralitza. So when we think about UX personas, we have a show in the Micro Lessons playlist here on the YouTube channel, so come subscribe to Delta CX. And we talk about how what's even better than personas are kind of what Larry Marine teaches as task analysis profiles or knowledge profiles. And basically, these tend to group people by their task. What are people likely to be here to do with our company? What kind of relationship are they looking for with our company? What are their needs? Now, sometimes UX personas skate on the edge of that and they'll write goals and motivations. But if you've got a persona and you look at that persona with those goals and those motivations and you still don't know what problem you need to solve for them, and you don't have direction on what you're designing, then that's probably not a very good persona, because the personas should really be informing us and helping us know our users and customers better so that we know what problems we're solving for them, which is, at least in our world over here, based on what task they're trying to accomplish and the way in which they're trying to accomplish that task. Ralitza says, yes, totally agree with Deb. Adding some info. Market segmentation is based on extensive complex surveys. Ask a number of questions on different topics, analyzed and profiled. Yeah. I can't tell you all the times I've been profiled as somebody who wants granny panties and a robe when that's definitely not my style. My Instagram ads are full of high fashion when I am the least fashionable person I can think of. Because why? Because I'm a woman of a certain age living in Italy, so they think I must like fashion. You know, we end up falling into stereotypes, and some of them are worse than what I'm saying right now. We don't want to stereotype people and putting them into these lazy buckets and segments. And even UX personas can sometimes be meaningless and along these same lines. So be very careful. Make sure you are making something that is meaningful, actionable, and helpful. It should really be informing teams and helping them know users and customers better so that we understand tasks and these types of parameters. Pamela says, sounds like product marketing. Yeah, marketing is marketing. And there's certainly good things about it, but it often is a clash with UX because we are looking more at behaviors and perspectives. And marketing is looking more at how much money might Debbie have and what do we think we can sell her? You know, does she have kids? Let's send her back to school reminders. No, I don't have kids, and that's on purpose. So that's some of the differences that I would say. Brandon, I hope that helps. Feel free to send a follow-up question. Sorry, not all of your comments are showing up on my screen today. Ana Lucia says, my social media is full of ads for recent mothers. I don't even have kids. There's another issue here. It would be offensive to infertile people, and they're not having that in mind. Totally. I write about that in my books. Okay, I'm going to put Niku's question on the end. We've got a couple of questions before Niku, but it's always fantastic to see Niku. Let's see. What question is next? Okay, that was personas. Next was product owner and product manager. This was, I think, from Pamela. What is the difference between a product owner and a product manager? Now, there's kind of a by the book difference. There's what, if you Google it, there's what you'll see is the difference. But this is one of those things like, what's the difference between a UX designer and a product designer? At some companies, these are very different. At some companies, these are the same. I've worked at companies where the product manager was the product owner, and I've worked at companies where the product manager and the product owner were separate people. So if you happen to have my Customers Know You Suck book, I actually go into this. I think at the end of chapter 20, if I remember correctly. And basically, if you Google product owner, a product owner was someone from the product team who was interfacing more with engineers. So typically, this was someone who was helping engineers prioritize work, making sure engineers are working on the things that are going to bring the most value to the business and the customers. I know I've got a slide on this somewhere, but it's not, I don't think it's loaded into my streaming system. But let's see, maybe I can quickly open that slide and read it to people if they won't fall asleep. But now the question is, which thing is it in? Let's just open up my book. I'll open up my book behind the scenes and I'll read you a little bit about that. Oh, and Ralitza would know too. She's commenting. She says, product owner is a specific function in the context of Scrum. Right. So as I was saying, this is something that is more directly related to the engineering team. Let me find what I've written in my book about this. Yeah, end of chapter 20. So with enough Googling, you might find that a product owner usually has duties including communicating project goals, defining and writing the user stories for engineers, because I don't need user stories, assisting or leading the engineering team in prioritizing or planning work for sprints, Validating stories connect to the definition of done, prioritizing the backlog based on strategies and priorities, validating that completed work meets acceptance criteria, has been appropriately tested and meets the definition of done, acting as a liaison between stakeholders and engineering teams. So you can hear that very traditionally, the product owner is really a partner to the engineering team, usually trying to represent some aspect of the business or the user or both to the engineering team and help them prioritize work. Product manager is a lot fuzzier. At some companies, it is the product owner. At some companies, it's a whole bunch of other things. So the list I have in my book sounds like this. A product manager, depending upon where this is, understands customers' needs and the market. Some sources say product managers must do market research. Some sources say product managers must do CX or UX research. Some sources say product managers must investigate and determine new markets or business ventures for the company, which you would think might be a business analyst or other strategist. Deciding where the products need innovations or improvements. You would think that that's not only product managers, but again, some people say that's just the product managers, everyone else stay out of it. Translating business goals to our products and services. Determining the product features. Some sources say this is solely prioritization. Some sources say the product manager must create the solution and then have UX designers document the product manager's ideas. Some go further to say the product manager is the UX designer. Product managers create product strategy and roadmaps. Product managers align teams and stakeholders on product vision and strategy. Product managers determine success metrics, KPIs, and OKRs. And product managers collect and interpret customer feedback after release. So again, depending upon who you are and where you work and how they see things, a product manager sounds like it could be almost everything on the planet if we don't give it some better defined boundaries. And it's just one of those things where different companies define it differently. And it is very Wild Westy right now. Thank you for asking. Sorry for the long answer. Okay, next question. When receiving negative feedback, how do you know if it's users hate change or it's just a bad UX design on meeting user satisfaction? I think this is where observational skills will help you, because even sometimes people who hate change, you'll still notice that they completed their task more efficiently. They made fewer errors. So even when people claim to hate change, that doesn't mean we never change anything. Now, when you're receiving the negative feedback, my question is, who is it from? If it's during a usability test, I would have to know what kind of negative feedback it was. Because if someone says, oh, I don't like this, that doesn't really tell me enough. I don't really know what's going wrong. I don't know if they're nervous about something changing. I don't know if they genuinely think this design or flow or process or screen is poor. We should be able to know this from watching them. We shouldn't have to ask them, though we could ask them. But I would say if you watch how people move through the task and you listen to what they say, you should know the answer. Usually, I do not accept users hate change as an excuse, because what I find is that people hate change that they feel is a downgrade. When there's a change that is an upgrade, when a company makes a change that adds the feature that you've been waiting for, when a company makes a change that fixes the thing that hasn't been working in a while, when the company makes the change that makes your life a little bit better, okay, at first you're like, what's this? And oh no, I have to get used to something new. But then you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is better. So I don't like to use users hate change as an excuse for anything, because in my opinion, most of the change that users hate is change that they perceive as a downgrade, as something negative, as something worse. So if you're getting that kind of negative feedback, I would definitely want to be observing or digging a little bit deeper to see, why might people, or why do people think that this is a downgrade or worse? We want to know. We want to know, even if we've designed the completely wrong thing and we have to throw it away, better to know now than to put it out in the public and say, that's it, here's the new feature, you're stuck using it, and it's secretly or not secretly a downgrade. So I would say don't assume that something is users hate change. Assume that something is wrong with the information architecture, with the flow, with the design, with the layout, with the process. Assume that something is wrong. Don't assume people are complainers, people are jerks, people are mean, people hate change. I think that that's something we say maybe to protect our ego. But of course, around here, we like to be low ego action heroes. And we want to test things and we want to hear where it's not working so that we can make it better. So don't be afraid of negative feedback because it's your opportunity to fix it. Okay, so we've got an anonymous question coming in, but we have Niku first. So Niku and then anonymous question. Please hold. Just copying and pasting the anonymous question in, and then we'll get Niku up on the board. Thank you, Johnny, and good luck. All right. Niku says, "Hi, Debbie. What are your thoughts on hosting user town halls as a way to gather user feedback quickly? What are some best practices?" So typically a town hall is kind of like a focus group. So Niku, correct me if I'm defining town hall differently than you would. Typically when I see town halls, they are kind of like focus groups where you have multiple users in the room and they have an opportunity to ask questions or answer questions or express opinions, and it's kind of a glorified focus group. Niku, is that what you mean? I don't want to answer the wrong question. That's exactly it, Niku says. Okay, great. So there's a lot of drawbacks to focus groups. If you have my book, Search Focus Groups, I've listed all of them in here, all that I could come up with and find. Focus groups are, to me, I would drop them into voice of the customer, since we are hearing things from people and like tweets about us and ratings about us and customer support tickets. These are things that people are expressing. So in that sense, they're part of voice of the customer, and I don't want to ignore them. But what you don't want to do is listen to someone's feedback or suggestion or complaint and then guess at how to fix it. Remember that we want to take this data, we want to triangulate it with other data. We want to ask ourselves what questions we know and don't know. Oh, that reminds me to make another graphic for the show. Let's not assume that we understand the problem. So if we have a town hall and a user says, I really don't like your dashboard. Your dashboard's not giving me the right information. Now, we could go run and go, gee, okay, what could the dashboard be missing? Maybe let's give these people another graph they can make. And you could put that graph out there, and it could be a nice graph, and it could usability test well because it's a nice graph, but it might not solve the problem. So make sure that even if you do a focus group or town hall style of thing, that you're not just saying, yep, that's all the data we need. Now we know what's going on. If you cannot write clear problem statements from what you hear, and if you do not know the root causes of what these people are talking about, then you need to do some research first. You don't want to jump in and just start guessing at what could be going on, because maybe the dashboard doesn't need a new graph. Maybe there's something completely else wrong with the dashboard, and we missed that because we were too busy guessing at what people really needed. So sometimes people give you surface level ideas in these things. Sometimes they go deep and they try to really describe the feature they want, but that doesn't mean it's the right feature for them. Something that people, it's like the bad fake faster horses quote. People didn't need faster horses. They needed a car or a train or a jet or a spaceship. So we want to make sure that this is a focus group or a town hall can be used, but it's a start. It's a piece of evidence. It's part of our evidence, but it's not all of our evidence, and we don't want to guess what the problem is and guess at the solution. That is risky and wasteful. Anne has a comment. Okay, and I'm going to put your question after the anonymous one that just came in, so please hold on. Anonymous one. Okay. Thank you. Good luck, Niku. Okay, anonymous question says, I'm going to need to drop down the font size here. First off, love the new site rather than the ask video. Yeah, actually, we used to do it this way. This is just a survey form. I tried the ask thing thinking it would be interactive and interesting and maybe people would want to do, and turns out people didn't. So we ran it for a very long time, and it's not better than a simple survey form. So there you go. I'm currently working on a new onboarding on a product I'm working on. We did usability test and found out people don't know what to do when they create an account. Also, we also find doing some of the tasks like buying stuff online tiresome due to the number of forms. Though those forms and data are needed to help give them the right stuff, how should I approach this? Okay, so my guess here is that someone thought the solution was more onboarding or onboarding tutorial or whatever. This is a problem that's probably not solved by onboarding, and it sounds like people didn't even love this onboarding. So I'm definitely missing some information here. I don't know. You're saying people don't like to buy stuff online because of the number of forms, but it sounds like they probably have to buy something online. I'm assuming this is a procurement system of some sort where people have to come to this and create an account and get their forms into the system and buy stuff online. So I think the question is, think about Larry Marine and task analysis. Go back to the task analysis videos here on YouTube if possible. How are people doing this now? What are their steps to buy these products online or through the procurement system or relationship? What are their tools and knowledge and workaround? When do they need these forms? How do they fill out these forms? Where do they get the information for the forms? Do they know the information for the forms? Are they ever missing information in the forms? All this tools, knowledge, and workaround is really going to help you see where some of the real problems are. And again, that's a step up from a job to be done, which would be just people are trying to do a thing. Once you have this all mapped out and you see what the current procurement or shopping or purchase flow and task look like, then you can say, how do we simplify this? How do we take away some of the problems people are having? How do we keep some of their information in the system so they don't have to fill it out over and over? How do we get some of these forms into the system? How do we make some of these forms web-based so that they're easier to fill out? How do we build stuff into forms that we know that people sometimes don't know or fill out incorrectly so that we're not leaving them to guess or struggle? So this is definitely a task analysis adventure, and it's probably not going to be fixed by a little bit more onboarding help or a little bit of a tutorial here or a tooltip over here. This is a process problem, and it sounds like it's breaking down in multiple places. So I would say don't assume that this is just easily fixed with more onboarding or a couple of tutorials or something. This whole process probably needs a redesign to really make it more customer-centric, user-centric, and based on what people's real tasks are. Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I've got one question, and I think we're going to have to say that's the last question, Anne's question, because I have a call right after this, and I've got to run. So let's take task analysis off the screen and put Anne up on the screen. We can also make the font bigger for those of you playing at home. Anne says, I saw a show about Instagram, and I've been wondering what usually sparks the decision to do a huge redesign. what should actually dictate that, especially if things seem to be humming along fine. So remember, there's humming along fine and there's humming along fine. Sometimes we get a new car when the old one is not dead yet. The old one's not doing as well as it could be, and we've just decided that it doesn't make sense to keep fixing this car and keep putting band-aids on this car and gluing this car back together. So the car doesn't have to be totally dead for us to get a new car. Products and apps and systems can be similar. Sometimes the redesign is for good reasons, like, hey, we've learned we're not really meeting or exceeding users' needs. We've learned that things were not working the way people needed them to work. We learned that we didn't create the right product. We learned we didn't have product market fit. People were not, let's put a new wacky graphic back up. People were not we were having trouble adopting people, or they're not happy, or they weren't staying. Oh my gosh, we need to do something big here. But sometimes, especially in social media, I've seen big redesigns come from copycatting competitors. Many of us, though it's easily Googleable, know the story about Skype in 2017, who decided to completely redesign Skype to look and feel more like Snapchat. They thought that would be newer, better, cooler, whatever, maybe attract younger people to Skype. It was a giant failure. They had to undo it. It made all the tech blogs and news and such. But that was inspired more by, maybe we should look more like this other thing because they've got the young people and we want the young people. Do people still use Snapchat? I feel like I don't even hear about it anymore, but I'm not young. So there are good and bad things that can inspire a large redesign. In my opinion, the best reason is customer centricity, user centricity. The worst reason is, hey, we're not forcing people to do things enough. Let's rebuild the system to force people to do things. That would be the worst. And then somewhere in the middle of badness is, let's just copy the competitor. Like how many people came up with stories after Facebook did stories, or, then all of a sudden Instagram stories, YouTube stories, LinkedIn stories, which nobody wanted and luckily has gone away. But sometimes you are doing big products or features or redesigns for copycatting. So, it might not be a matter of are things humming along fine or not. There's always someone who will say they're good enough. So I think it's going to depend upon different companies, why they do these large redesigns. Sometimes they're public about it and they say why, and sometimes you don't really know why they did that. So who can say? So thanks to everybody for a super fun office hours. Remember, I do this every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Always check your calendars and clocks. Also know that we've got a live show schedule over on deltacx.com/links, so you can join there. If you're interested in getting some coaching with me, go to deltacx.link/coaching. Oh yeah, Ana Lucia says, remember when Facebook tried to go Tinder? That was bad. Yeah, I left Facebook about 6 years ago, so luckily I've missed a lot of the more recent carnage. I just suffer with Instagram until someone will please make me a replacement. But coming up on the show, remember tomorrow is book club. For those of you reading Customers Know You Suck, please read it. It's fun. You can find it at deltacx.media in various forms, now including Audible. Hey, is anybody listening to the audiobook? What do you think of it so far? You can join the book club even if you aren't reading the book. We're happy to have you there, and you can ask questions about book stuff and things like that. Tomorrow we'll be talking about chapters 9, 10, and 11 because they were all short. Let's see. And then Friday is a special extra stream. Friday would normally be our day off now that critical thinking is every other week, but I will be reading the new MIT article on design thinking, and boy, oh boy, do they poop on design thinking, and they give some hints about what's coming next. So I think it'll be important for us to have some critical thinking around that. And also remember, if you like the book and you like the merch, deltacx.shop. Feel free to get yourself a little something. I make a few dollars on it. But, get it because it's fun, not because I get $3. Okay, so that would be that. Again, no stream tomorrow or Thursday. Tomorrow's book club, which we hold on Google Meet. Check the Google Calendar on deltacx.com/links, or if you're in our Slack or Discord, which are free, you'll see the link in the live events channel. Don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube. I'm still shadow banned, so please help spread the word about the channel and how much I'm trying to help all of you improve your practice and careers. Rocket says, $1 million question. Why WhatsApp still gives the annoying message deleted for everyone? You mean instead of just showing nothing? I don't know. Do other people see that too? I don't use WhatsApp because I don't trust Facebook. I don't even like using Instagram. To be continued, Rocket Person. Because we're out of time and I've got another call I have to jump to. So so I hope to see everybody Friday to talk about design thinking, because there's so much backlash against it. The backlash has been mounting for a few years now. It looks like IDEO is going to do something, but I can still see all of this stuff going down in flames pretty badly. So when we delete the message for everyone in the chats, sorry, I don't use WhatsApp, so I'm not familiar with the interface, so I can't comment on it. Sorry, send me screenshots. Thanks everybody, and I hope to see you on Friday. Be well. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are